At MTAC Another World, we got the chance to chat with Jason Charles Miller in this issue of the Carbuncle Chronicle. Hello, adventurers, and welcome to the Carbuncle Chronicle, your podcast for everything awesome in Final Fantasy XIV. I'm Basil, and I main a Lalfell summoner named 4K Raideske on Leviathan. But you're not here to listen to me yammer today or ever. Anyways, I was joined alongside my awesome cast cohort and compatriot John Robbins, who by and large tends to handle most of the Awesome Cast interviews, which you can find at awesomecast.com. But him and I, we got to team up and we got to talk with Jason Charles Miller, star of stage and screen and music and podcasts and all sorts of things. He does a lot, y'all. He does a whole lot. Final Fantasy XIV fans would probably recognize him for a few things. For one thing, he was the English voice of Raubahn for all of A Realm Reborn and all that 2.0 greatness therein. But a lot of folks, probably most folks in Final Fantasy XIV, will recognize him best for his singing voice. He has been a part of some just absolute bangers. For example, he was one of the main vocalists for the Shadowbringers theme. He also did the vocals for Close in the Distance, for To the Edge, a highlight for many folks in a patch full of highlights. And even very recently, as of this recording, he got to do the track Unleashed, which plays in the most current Arcadian tier that is Cruiserweight in the final one, M8. Dude rules. He writes a lot of awesome music that's just good on its own right for himself. He's also done awesome music for other people, like he did the first 3 theme songs for Critical Role. His singing voice has also been featured in such songs like Rules of Nature for the Metal Gear Rising Revengeance game. He also plays a real mean game of D&D, both as a dungeon master and as a player. He has also written lots of really cool songs about Dungeons & Dragons. Again, this guy, he does a lot. And, in fact, he even has his own podcast. It's called Intro Skippers, and he does it along with Kim Horscher. And it is, I quote, your favorite podcast about what's streaming and the culture around it, presented by your friends with unique perspectives on entertainment, Kim and Jason. The Jason, in this case, being Jason Charles Miller. So if you enjoyed him nerding out with us here on this interview, you should go give Intro Skippers a try. You can find it wherever you download your podcasts, much like this one, the Carbuncle Chronicle. Anyways, okay, enough intro. Let's get into the interview.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to MTAC Another World, where we are happy to be joined by Jason Charles Miller. Jason, thank you so much for taking the time.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. This is my second MTAC. I was here in 2013. You can look it up on Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's been a minute. It's been a little too long. So glad to have you back. How's the convention been treating you so far?
Great so far. I had a great day.
Well, usually like to start these out just by asking a general question. Like what projects are you working on right now that you can share with us?
Yeah. Okay. What can I share? That's always the question, word. Right? Well, let's see. I just had a new song release in Final Fantasy XIV, the latest update called 7.2, and the song's called Unleashed. So that is my latest thing. Let's see. I'm thinking, like, every time I want to tell you guys something, I think of the non-disclosure agreement that I signed.
Yeah. That's PNDAs.
Yeah, I can say I just worked on Neverwinter again, so that will be coming out soon. And like I said, the new Final Fantasy XIV song. Also, I collaborated with Soken, the composer of Final Fantasy XIV, back in January. I sang Kenny Omega's new wrestling intro song.
Oh, wow.
So he now, on any pay-per-view, whether it's New Japan or AEW, Kenny comes out to a song called Take Flight that Soken composed, and I sing it.
Wow. That's excellent. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
So let me ask, what made you first take an interest in being a performer?
Well, my dad tells a story of I was 5 years old and I was on a train, and we were walking around the train, and there was an entertainment car. And I guess there was a guy in there with a guitar, and he was getting kind of frustrated because no one was paying attention to him. So apparently he was like, well, does anybody want to come up here and sing? And apparently 5-year-old me said, I'll sing. Do you know Country Roads? And I sang Country Roads and brought the house down from what I've been told. And I guess that gave me the bug, and I've wanted to be a performer ever since.
That's fantastic. That's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing.
Sure.
Who would you say has had the biggest impact on your career?
You know, what's interesting, you think about all the artists that you admire, but then what I really realized was actually about a week ago, my high school choir teacher passed away. Her name was Sue Alexander. And when we have good teachers when we're children, we don't often realize how good they are until sometimes years later. She instilled in me the kind of discipline of rehearsal and, working on your craft and working it and reworking it and reworking it. And just thinking about her a lot lately and how good we had it and we didn't know that we had. I would say she was a huge influence on my career, that I would not have had a career without her, because she really pushed me in that direction and also believed in me and made me believe that I could do it.
What's the biggest challenge for you as a creative?
It is when you think that you've created something that the world will love, and then the hurdles that have to happen between the thing that you created and getting it to the people. When my career started, it was the gatekeepers of, who runs radio, who runs record labels, who does this. And there's still some of that, but now it's on top of, will the algorithm of this social media platform will this trigger what needs to be triggered so that it gets spread out to more people? It's a moving goalpost that you're constantly chasing.
With that in mind, what keeps you motivated to keep creating?
I think because it's a calling, there's not a financial motivation. That part's nice, and I've certainly experienced that in my career. But was there a reason why my guitar player and I drove here for 9.5 hours from Virginia because we didn't have any shows booked in between? It's because we have a calling to perform, and that's like what you can't quantify it. It just is the thing that motivates you to continue, and it becomes part of your life and motivation. What I can equate it in a nerd term, because I am very much a nerd. In the Star Trek movie Generation, Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg's character, she describes the Nexus, and she says it's like pure joy. And whenever you're not in it, all you think about is getting back to it. And I equate performing live on stage to that. It's the best description, I think, of being a performer.
You mentioned being a nerd. What are some of the interests you have outside of just performing?
Well, first and foremost, I am a J.R.R. Tolkien fanatic. From when people ask me what my favorite Tolkien book is, I say The Children of Húrin, and they go, "What? What are you talking about?" And that's actually one of the stories from the Silmarillion that they published later, that Christopher Tolkien edited and then published later. But so anything Tolkien and Middle Earth is something that I'm constantly researching and digging into more and more, which then when I was cast in the game Lord of the Rings Rise to War, that was like definitely a highlight of my career, because finally something that I love more than anything, I'm able to like contribute in the tiniest way to that universe. It was a really fun thing.
I'm glad you were able to experience that. I think that's something that everybody wants for themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm glad when I see it happen.
So where are the coolest places you've gotten to perform besides the Tokyo Dome?
Right. Tokyo Dome aside, I would say in my old band Godhead, we got to play at Mile High Stadium for Ozfest. So we toured in Ozfest 2001 and got to play at some amazing places. You know, more recently playing in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for a Final Fantasy 14 orchestra concert. We did 2 concerts there. That was pretty amazing. Guangzhou, China, you know, really just going to places and cultures that I've never been to and just really thrust in. But the connection is the show. The connection is we're all there experiencing the performance and the show together. And that's a really special feeling.
There's a part of me that just wants, so what's it like working with Soken? But I'll maybe recontextualize that. Have there been any particular interesting lessons you've learned from working with Soken?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so many interesting things about working with Soken. When we first worked together was on the song Shadowbringer. And I was sent a sheet music and a recording, and then the melody was played on a keyboard. And then I needed to rehearse to that. Then we had several Zoom meetings because I don't record my parts in Japan. I actually record them at my studio in Los Angeles and then send him options. So what I try to do when I work with Soken is be as thorough as possible. So I tend to send 3 to 4 fully completed and comped performances. And then I let him choose from those performances what pieces he wants to put in the final version. So he might use verse 1 from my second completed take. He might use chorus 2 from my fourth, you know, and it's interesting to see what he takes. So I try to give him way more than what he needs so that we don't have to do any back and forth too often or, you know, jump on another call. I just try to give him as much as I possibly can. But what I've learned from him is a lot. There's a lot of key changes in his music, and you've got to do it on the fly, live. It's one thing when you're in a studio and you're able to sort of record each section at a time. But when you have to do that thing live and you're singing with the Tokyo Philharmonic Orchestra and there's a conductor right there and you've got to, you know, hit a note and then hit another note that's 16 semitones above it like that. It's a different way of training your voice, and it's a different way of really experiencing music. So what it's taught me is to be more flexible, to be more agile, to be able to move as quickly as his mind moves when he's composing something.
Did you have any experience with Final Fantasy before?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like Final Fantasy 3 was my jam when I was a kid. Getting the airship was the thing, you know?
Yeah.
So being able to, and knowing what a huge franchise it is, and then being cast as Raubahn first.
Yeah.
That was a really cool experience. And then to be brought back later to sing all of these songs in the game, you feel the history, you feel the significance. You know how many people have experienced and loved a Final Fantasy game. And of course, there's people that love 7, and 7 is their ride or die for 7. There's some that are ride or die for 10, you know, and everyone sort of has their favorite. And then, of course, 14 comes out and it's, you know, the MMO to end all MMOs, you know, it's been going for 10 plus years. And then you meet people at FanFest and you know how much it means to them. You meet people that met playing the game and now they're married. You know, you met people that they're free companies, you know, guilds. will come together for the first time at FanFest, and they're all meeting for the first time. And it's just such a joyous experience. And the fan base is like nothing I've ever experienced, because I also have been a voice actor in World of Warcraft for many years, and I've been a voice actor in a lot of other MMOs. And not to speak negatively about any other MMO communities, but it's just to say that Final Fantasy XIV specifically has such a positive community that Warriors of Light couldn't be a better name, because it just emanates that.
I did want to ask about your D&D, and
sure,
I've seen you, like, the streams of you game mastering and playing and performing. And what is similar and what is different about playing Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop roleplay, but also performing music? Because for me, I know it hits similar notes, notes sometimes, but other times it can be very different.
Well, okay, so there's a couple of ways to look at that, because when you're playing a home game and you're a DM, it's a very different experience than when you're a DM and you're playing on a streaming show.
Right.
What I mean by that, though, is every game that I've ever run on a streaming show is the game that I want to run, and it's happening in real time, and it's not scripted. People come up with these crazy ideas that MMO shows are scripted. They're really not. Sometimes, though, you have to pace it. I will design a game differently for a streaming show than I will for a home campaign or for a long campaign, right? So shows tend to be a little bit more on rails, so to speak. I want to give people as much agency as possible, but I also trust in my players that if I give them a door that needs to be opened, that they're going to open that door rather than that they're going to ignore that door and leave the dungeon. You know what I mean? Whereas in a home game, they could totally do that. And I've been in games where they do. But equating it to performing, obviously when we're streaming, you're performing. You're aware that there's a camera on you at all times. And that at first can be a little harrowing. It can be a little bit, you can be self-conscious. But you start to get used to it, and it starts to get a little easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier. And then you can really relax and enjoy the camaraderie of telling a story together with everyone. You're telling the story with all of your players, and then the dice are throwing little, things in the mix. So early on, what someone told me at Geek and Sundry was, look, we're showing a game, but we also are making a show. And so we have to keep that in mind when we do that. So it's always good that your players on a streaming show have acting backgrounds or, improv backgrounds or comedy backgrounds to keep it interesting for the viewer. When I'm running a home game or a home campaign, that can be a little bit looser, and that doesn't matter as much. We're just all there to have fun. The main point is to have fun. And with a home game or with a streaming game, if things get too bogged down and too serious, I'm always going to try to make it light again, because it's a group of friends getting together to have a fun night. And yes, of course, we have goals in the game and we have things that we want to achieve, but I always want to make it about fun above all else.
So one last question.
Mm-hmm.
The theme of MTAC is Another World.
Yeah.
So if you had to be transported to another world, and I think I know the answer. But I'm going to ask anyway, which world would you want to be transported to?
Well, here's the thing. Is it Middle Earth First Age, the Second Age, or the Third Age, right? And is it Middle Earth in the Third Age before the events of The Hobbit, or after the events of The Hobbit, before the events of Lord of the Rings? There's so many different places. And then depending on what time you're there, is it Lothlorien? Is it Rivendell? Is it Gondor in its golden age? Like it's going to be, if I had to pick, it would be Lothlorien in the Third Age, right after the events of The Hobbit, but 80 years before The Lord of the Rings started, so that I could experience Lothlorien in a moment of peace.
A nerdier answer one could not get. I'm absolutely 100% here for it. Jason, thank you so much. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
And that was our interview with Jason Charles Miller. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to MTAC for facilitating this interview and making sure that we got to have it. And thank you to Jason Charles Miller for coming on and chatting with us. He was an absolute delight. You can find his stuff at jasoncharlesmiller.com or just search for his name wherever you want to do social media stuff. Don't forget about his new podcast, Intro Skippers. It's a fun time. You can find MTAC stuff at mtac.net, or again, you can search for MTAC on your various social media platforms. You can find us here at the Carbuncle Chronicle. Just search for Carbuncle Chronicle on social media or CarbyCast in some cases. Of course, you can always go to carbunclechronicle.com, and you can find all my stuff at itsbasiltime.com or It's Basil Time on social media. And you can find John at J5 is Live on social media. J, the number 5, and then once again in text, is live. Thank you for John and Jason for talking with us. Thank you out there for listening. And never ever forget, you tank the Bone Dragon up north.